All right. I don't know if some of you out there are even going to be able to handle this one today. I mean, referring to my fellow Yes fans out there who happen to have stumbled across this video. But today I've got a ranking of my top 10 Yes albums. I think the word I'm using in the title is shocking, which admittedly kind of remains to be seen. It kind of depends on your perspective as to just how shocking this list actually is. But I can tell you that some of my choices and omissions and ranking positions will fly in the face of what seems to increasingly be considered conventional wisdom these days in the collective progressive rock fan community. So I just wanted to give you guys a heads up out there so that you can brace yourselves for potential impact, particularly if you happen to be someone who has a hard time with views that don't align with your own. But I am genuinely curious to see how many of you out there actually agree with me on this, either in full or even just in part. And I invite you guys to leave me a comment and let me know. But yeah, we'll just see how this goes. Let's get right into it and rock this. All right, so I guess I should give you guys a little bit of brief context here, just so you know where I'm coming from with this band. I'm a huge fan of Yes. I've been a fan for like 40 years. Initially started listening to them in the 80s. The 90125 lineup was my gateway to the band, and then I kind of worked my way back to the classic era stuff from there. But it was really in the early 90s where I got like heavily into them, right as I was getting heavily into progressive rock in general. Right, I'd kind of dabbled in progressive rock a bit in the 80s, but the 90s is when the floodgates totally opened for me, and I went just all in on the progressive rock genre. So I was listening to a lot of Yes during that time, and I think for a few years there, I even considered them like my favorite band of all time, right? And I still think of them as an all-time favorite band. They don't rank quite as high for me now. I mean, I listened to Yes so much for so many years that eventually I did get a little bit burned out, and I kind of had to take a break, right? So they don't rank quite as high for me now as they did like back then in the 90s, but they're still like a top 20 favorite band for me, right? In fact, I think I had them in my top 20 all-time favorite bands, the very first video I did on this channel. So I still consider them a hugely influential band and an important band in my life. So just thought you guys might want to know that going into this ranking. All right, so without any further ado, let's start with my number 10 here. We've got Time in a Word from 1970. I love this album. I think this has got some great stuff on it. I mean, it's not as good as some of the stuff that came later, right? But it's still got some really strong material, I think. Sweet Dreams. I love Sweet Dreams off this. Great tune. Then I like, let's see what else is on this. I like that No Opportunity Necessary, No Experience Needed. I always thought that was pretty cool. Of course, the big one for me on here is Astral Traveler. I mean, that song alone is almost worth the price of admission on this album. Just an incredible song. And it ranks up there pretty high as far as Yes songs go for me. I love that. So, yeah, I had to do it. Now, this one was a tough one. I was kind of torn between two different albums to put in my number 10 spot. And I'm not going to tell you what the other one is right now, because I'll save that for my honorable mentions once I'm done with my top 10. But I do think this is a very solid early Yes album. Yeah, Time in a Word for my number 10. All right, and next up for my number 9, we've got, it's called Key Studio from 2011, but it's studio material that was recorded in 1996, 1997 or put out in 1996, 1997 originally on the Keys to Ascension albums, the two live albums, Keys to Ascension 1 and Keys to Ascension 2. Well, eventually they decided to put all the studio recordings together in a single album, and I do consider this a legitimate Yes album, right? I mean, on each of the Keys to Ascension live albums, they had, half an album worth of studio recordings, right? So you put them together of the two sets and you got yourself a full album right there. And I'll take it a step further. I'll suggest this was probably the last really good album that we got from Yes. This material from the Keys to Ascension sessions, I do think is really the last really good material we got from Yes. And of course, part of the reason I'm saying that, and here we go, this might tweak some of you, brace yourselves. Because I think whether we all want to admit it or not, we all know it's not really Yes without John Anderson, is it? Right? I mean, come on. I mean, some of us have kind of resisted that and, oh, that's insulting. No, it's not. It's the truth. And you guys know that, right? You can't have one of the most iconic voices in rock and roll for 35, being in the band for 35, 40 years, and then suddenly take this voice away and start playing musical chairs with the vocalist and expect fans to have the same connection to the band. That's absurd. Don't you think? I think it is. So yeah, it's not Yes without John Anderson. I think we all know that, right? So now, of course, there were other John Anderson efforts after this, right? But I do think this was the last really good Yes album that we got, was the Key Studio stuff. And there's some really good songs on here that I think really stand up. Even now, they hold up, all these years later, right? I always like Footprints. Mind Drive is awesome, right? You got to love Mind Drive, right? That is also killer. What else? Bring Me to the Power, Be the One. I mean, there's some good stuff on there. It's very solid material. So yeah, I always enjoy returning to this one for my number 9, Key Studio. All right, are some of you still with me after that last one? I mean, I get it. People get wigged out about this shit. They really do, right? I understand. Let's move on to my number 8 here. We've got Tales from Topographic Oceans. I got the Steven Wilson remix here, or the first one from whenever he originally did it. I can never remember the years on these Steven Wilson remixes. Is it 2015, 16, somewhere in there? Maybe it was 2014. I can't remember, but in any event, I have always loved this album. This is a killer album. And honestly, when I went into this ranking, I thought it was going to be a little bit higher up for me. But then when I started thinking through stuff, and I was like, I couldn't avoid putting it down a little bit lower, right? But I love this album. I think it's great. I've been a big fan of this one for many years. Since actually, I've been listening to this since probably since the 80s. It was one of the earlier Yes albums I think I bought. I mean, once I got used to, like classic Yes, that was like my introduction to the earlier Yes years, was that classic Yes album. Do you guys remember that? It was like a greatest hits, and it had a few key songs on it, but it didn't really, I don't think it had anything from Tales on it back then. And so I do seem to remember coming across Tales at some point in my teen years back in the 80s and picking it up. And I thought it was pretty weird at the time, but it grew on me, definitely. And then once I got like heavily into Yes in the 90s, it really grew on me. Like, I just fell in love with this album. It's got some great stuff in there. I do think it's a little bit bloated. I do think they could have trimmed it down a little bit. I think there's some redundancies there that don't need to be there, really. And I tend to agree with Rick Wakeman that there was a little bit of filler there. I can understand why he wasn't digging it. I think he makes, some very good points in the things he said about this album, and he said there was some strong stuff in there. It just felt like there was more or less too much filler, like that they were stretching things out more than they should have, right? Where they could have probably pared it down to a single album, or I don't know, maybe an album and a half, right? I mean, because there's, I think for me personally, I think about 3/4 of it is fairly solid for me. So, but I love Ritual. I love The Revealing Science of God. Big fan of this one. You got to love it. Tales from Topographic Oceans for my number 8. All right, and moving right along to my number 7 here. All right, the first Raven era album. I kind of gave you a little signal there, didn't I, guys? Big Generator. I know this album gets shit on a lot. The conventional, again, wisdom is that this is not a good album. Bullshit. I think it's a great album. I love it. I think I like just about every song on this album, right? I mean, it's solid. I love Rhythm of Love. I know it's a little bit more commercially accessible, but I don't care about that stuff. As I've said before on the channel, I can appreciate a well-crafted, commercially accessible rock pop song with a good hook every bit as much as I can appreciate some complex 30-minute epic, right? I'm very flexible with that kind of thing. So no, I love Rhythm of Love. I loved it when it first came out. I loved this album. I mean, I was totally taken by John Anderson's voice, right? I mean, it totally captivated, you know? So yeah, Big Generator and 90125, that was my gateway to Yes. Because of those albums, I became a Yes fan, right? So they'll always hold a special place in my heart. I even like the title track, Big Generator, Shoot High, Aim Low's cool, Almost Like Love. I always thought that was pretty cool. My favorite at the time, because it was getting some radio airplay, I remember back then, was Love Will Find a Way. I loved that song. Finalize, yeah, that one's okay. But I always like I'm Running as well. And even Holy Lamb's pretty cool. So, yeah, I mean, there's a couple songs on it that maybe aren't quite as strong. But, well, actually, I do like Finalize the more I think about it. Most of the songs on this album, I think, are pretty solid. So, I mean, I know some people don't like the 80s production, but that's just, you know, to me, that's part of the charm, right? It's a product of its time, right? And so I don't have a problem with that. So, yeah, I'm a big fan of this one. Big Generator for my number 7. All right, next up for my number 6, we've got from 1974, Relayer, love Relayer. And the main reason I love it is because of how experimental it is. You know, like something like Big Generator, I like some of the more commercially accessible tracks. But when we talk about an album like Relayer, the reason I like this one is just the opposite. I like how out there it is, you know, especially Gates of Delirium. It's amazing. Gates of Delirium is incredible. It's a great tune. And I like To Be Over too. Sound Chaser, I'm not as into, but the other two tracks, I love them. Of course, it's only 3 tracks on this one, right? Because Gates of Delirium is so long. What is that, like 22 minutes or something? So, but so I'm a big fan of Relayer. This is one that it did take me longer to appreciate, admittedly, you know, over the years, right? Initially, I didn't care for it as much, but the more I listened to it over the years, the more I really came to dig it. And of course, I have the Steven Wilson remixes here, which I have for all of the Yes albums that he did. So I very much appreciate the work he did on these albums. So yeah, that's about all I can really say about this one. Great album for my number 6, Relayer. By the way, if you're enjoying the content on this channel and you'd like to see more, do me a big favor and please subscribe to the channel. And if you do, don't forget to activate those notifications as well. I recommend selecting all so that you can always be alerted whenever I'm posting videos that you might be interested in. Also, don't forget to like the video and maybe even leave a comment if you're feeling so inclined. The YouTube algorithm really likes it when you engage the channel in that way, and it tends to reward the channel with greater visibility, something I'm definitely interested in, being a relatively new channel at this time. So thank you so much for your support. Really appreciate it. All right, so just quick check in here. How we doing here, guys? Are we feeling like this list is sufficiently wonky enough yet? I knew it would. It tweaked some people. So all right, moving on to number 5 here. 90125. I love 90125. I think it's a brilliant album. Yeah, I mean, every song on it is good. Every song. I mean, I think Trevor Rabin, you know, he did Yes a big favor with this one. You know, I love Trevor Rabin's work. I think he's great. I wish we'd gotten more from this from the 90125 lineup. At least one more album. I would have loved that. I understand why it didn't really work out too well, because John, you know, is kind of a visionary in his own right. I mean, he is the visionary of Yes, really, when you think about it. It's also part of why I say it's not Yes without John, because John was the primary visionary in Yes, right? Well, Trevor Rabin was a visionary in his own right? And so I think it was probably kind of hard for him and John, you know, to work together, because you got two competing visions, right, for the band. So that's just, I mean, that's to be expected. But I think this one is just magic. I mean, they really hit, you know, solid gold on this one, right? So, of course, the big single, Owner of a Lonely Heart, was huge for them. Gave Yes their only number 1 hit, right? And then also, I mean, there's so many great songs on this. I love Changes, one of my all-time favorite Yes songs. Just an incredible song. Hold On's great. It Can Happen. That killer vocal layering that they do and Leave It. Amazing. I love City of Love. I love Hearts. It's just a killer album. It doesn't have a bad track on it. It's a banger all the way through. There's no denying it. Now, again, same thing I said before. I realize it's a little bit more commercially accessible, which the prog purists, they can have a hard time with that, right? If it's not like super complicated with a million time signature changes and a million notes per minute, then who cares if it's a little bit more commercially accessible? I like a good hook just as much as the next guy. There's nothing wrong with having good hooks. Good hooks make the world go round. I'll even take it a step further and say that. You got to have a good hook. And if anything, that's one thing Trevor Rabin knew how to do, was write a good hook. And John too, as well. But definitely Trevor was good at this. I mean, I love the work that he did with this band. So, all right, enough of that. For my number 5, 90125. All right, and next up, for my number 4, from 1971, Fragile, or as I like to call it, Fragile. What a great album. I mean, what can you say about Fragile, right? This is classic stuff. My favorite song from this is Heart of the Sunrise. That's one of my all-time favorite Yes songs. Love Heart of the Sunrise. A little sick of Roundabout, right? Of course, Roundabout was the big single from this one, right? That people know, casual fans know, right? But of course, Long Distance Run Around and The Fish. I love The Fish. The Fish is killer. So all that killer bass work that Chris Squire is doing, you gotta love it. So, and then of course I've got the Steven Wilson remix for this one as well, which again, love Steven Wilson's remixes on these things. You can't go wrong with them. Yeah, I know for some people, they might rank this a little bit higher, right? Some of you might be wondering why it's not higher. Well, you're going to find out here momentarily. But yeah, for my number 4, Fragile. All right, down to the top 3 here. For my number 3, the Yes album. Yes, I really do like the Yes album more than Fragile. I think it's a little bit stronger album, except for that whole thing about Steve Howe giving me the clap. I'm not into that. Not at all, man. I mean, I know. Another little pause here. I got to be honest, guys. I'm not a big Steve Howe fan. Now, I will say I got to give him a modicum of respect because I do think he wrote some great guitar parts on these classic Yes albums, right? I think he wrote some really good, iconic guitar parts, right? So I respect him for that. But that's pretty much where my respect for him kind of ends, I know that sounds so terrible. I shouldn't say things like that, should I? So whatever. I know a lot of Howe fans are probably like flipping their fucking lids right now, but no, I'm not. I think he's kind of overrated, to be honest. I think he wrote great parts for those classic albums, but I've never liked his guitar sound. I've always thought his guitar kind of sounded like shit. I don't like the tone. I just, his whole thing, it just does, and I'm not into his chicken picking. I mean, again, it's more like he's giving me the clap when I hear that song. In fact, they could have just called it, instead of calling it clap, they should have just called the song Steve Howe Giving You the Clap. Because after something like Yours Is No Disgrace, which is another favorite Yes song of mine, don't, bow. I mean, that fucking rocks. And then you get Steve Howe's chicken picking after that. It just doesn't work for me. It just doesn't work for me. So, and that's, also why I'm not interested in the Steve Howe show. The post John Anderson, pseudo Yes, Steve Howe show. Because as we've already established, it's not really Yes without John Anderson. Now, I'm not saying they can't go out there and make music and write music or whatever. It's just that for me personally, I mean, if you guys are into it, if you're into pseudo Yes, that's totally cool. More power to you. If you like the music, if you're into what the band calling itself Yes right now is doing, if you're into that, look, I'm not trying to, throw any shade your way, right? I mean, knock yourself out, more power to you if you're into that. But I think of it as more of like a Yes side project. I don't think of it as real Yes. I don't have the same connection to the Steve Howe show that I do to real Yes with John Anderson in it. So this video is going to make me a lot of fans. I figured I'd do this video early on while I don't have a whole lot of subs. You know, not as much to lose right now, you know. It's been kind of a slow start with the channel anyway, so I figured, you know, I'm just going to go ahead and throw it out there. We'll see how this goes over. I'm actually, again, genuinely curious to see how many of you actually agree with me. And I definitely want to hear from you in the comments below. If you find yourself agreeing with the things I'm uttering, I definitely want to hear from you, because you know, that was part of why I wanted to take this approach with this video. I mean, I'm not saying anything that I don't genuinely believe. These are my actual views. You always get my real views, especially with music. I don't fuck around with music. But so yeah, I want to hear your thoughts. I definitely do. All right, so what else is on there? Starship Trooper, amazing. Of course, I've got the also have the Steven Wilson remix back there. I showed this, just picked this up not that long ago because it was the only one that I didn't have the Steven Wilson remixes for. You know, I have the older releases like I've been showing here for the other albums that he remixed, but this was the only one I didn't have. So I figured, you know what? I'm going to go for it because I love this album. I do like it more than Fragile. I think it's a little bit stronger album, partly because of Yours Is No Disgrace. Starship Troopers incredible. Your Move, All Good People. I love Perpetual Change. Perpetual Change is awesome. Love that tune. So yeah, you just cannot go wrong with the Yes album. So that's it for Yes album for my number 3. All right, now that I've been presumably successful in pissing off a sizable segment of the Yes fan base that, you know, who are in, at least among those who happen to have found this video, let's bring it on home. Let's bring it on home. You ready for this? All right, here it comes. Number 2 is Talk. Yes, I actually ranked Talk higher than Fragile and the Yes album and Tales from Topographic Oceans and Relayer. It's a fucking killer album. It is. It's a great album. I think it's Trevor Rabin's masterpiece. You just cannot go wrong with something like Endless Dream, right? I love it. Now, I've got this, what was this, Spirit of Unicorn? I think the Spirit of Unicorn music. Regretfully, I have to tell you, I mean, you got this nice, you know, chunky box there. Really nice looking package, right? I was all excited when I saw this. I was like, yes, Talk, remastered. Got the live Talk tour with it. I was totally pumped. But unfortunately, the packaging is the best thing about this release. The remaster doesn't sound very good. If you can believe this, it's actually even quieter than the original CD that came out in 1994. I don't know. I guess they were trying to add even more dynamic range. Not that this needed it. I mean, in the liner notes of the album, it says, caution, extreme dynamic range. So I don't know, but I wasn't happy with this release, and they totally screwed up the live stuff. They did these weird crossfades, and they only gave you about the last 2/3 of the calling. Why would you not include the entirety of a song if you're going to include a song? I mean, it's just bizarre what they did with this. So yeah, they screwed this one up pretty badly, but I love this album. I really do. And I think it holds up even now. All these years later, I thought it was incredible at the time. I saw them on the Talk tour, and I was like 5th row or something like that, 5th or 6th row. I think we had really good seats. And it was an impactful experience. It made a big impression on me and on my life as an artist, as a musician back then, right? I mean, it was a huge deal for me seeing this show. I mean, you got The Calling on here, which I've always loved. You know, I mentioned Endless Dream. Endless Dream is just, what an incredible epic. I Am Waiting is cool. Real Love is awesome. Walls is awesome. State of Play is awesome. I mean, there's not a bad track on this album. Every single song is a banger, or damn near close, as far as I'm concerned. So yeah, I just love it. Love this album. So yeah, Talk for my number 2. All right. So after this crazy list, at least I can take some comfort in knowing that a lot of you will agree with my number one. And that is, of course, Close to the Edge. Absolute prog classic, one of the greatest prog albums ever made. It's, yeah, Talk and Close to the Edge are pretty close for me, right? But they're two totally different types of albums, right? Two totally different sounds. So you can't really compare them. But I love this album. I mean, the title track is one of the greatest prog epics ever, but every song's great, you know? And You and I, Siberian Khatru, I mean, I love it all. Love it all. So, yeah, you cannot go wrong with this absolute prog classic. Close to the Edge for my number one. All right, so that covers my main list of 10, but as is often the case, I do have a couple quick honorable mentions I wanted to go through, especially the first one here, because the first one was the one that I had trouble deciding whether or not to put in my top 10. Remember I said back at my number 10 when I had Time and a Word, I was struggling between that album and another one? Well, my first honorable mention today, and this might cause some people to wig out, but it was Going for the One. I'm sure some of you are wondering why Going for the One wasn't in my top 10. Well, part of it is the title track, Going for the One. I've never really liked that song. That twangy Steve Howe thing he's doing at the beginning. It's like, dude, what are you doing? It's just, it wasn't appealing to me. But I do love Parallels. Parallels is a great tune. And I like Awaken too. I know some people just totally cream themselves over Awaken. I think it's a great song. I don't think it's that great. I think they've got a lot of, I think they've got other epics that are stronger, but I do think it's a cool song. I think my main issue with Awaken is that it's just a little bit too long, right? It's not that it's too long. It's that it's got large sections in it that I think are kind of boring. That whole intro, it's like I keep waiting for it to kick in. It takes forever before it actually starts rocking, with the down, 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 I love that when it kicks in and it's like full bore rocking it. Then I dig it, but it is a little bit redundant, and I don't know. It just doesn't have. I don't think it's as good of an epic as a number of their other epics, right? But I do think it's cool. I think it's a cool song. But yeah, I like Time and a Word a little bit more, which I know is kind of a weird choice to put in front of Going for the One, but I think I like it just a tiny bit more, So, this does have some good songs on it though, Wonder Stories was, I guess, the single off this as well. So it's got some good stuff, but yeah, it's not, didn't quite make my top 10. So sorry to disappoint you guys. Going for the One for my first honorable mention. And then for my next honorable mention, we've got, believe it or not, Union from 1991. I like this album. I liked it when it came out, and yeah, I think it's got some good songs on it. Now, obviously, it's not one of their best albums. It was kind of, it was kind of a hack job how they put it together, right? But I think it's got some cool songs. Shock to the System, I always thought was pretty cool. I love the Trevor Rabin songs, Lift Me Up and Miracle of Life in particular. Without Hope, You Cannot Start the Day. I like that one. I Would Have Waited Forever. I think it's got some good songs, and I do enjoy listening to this one. It gets pretty lame kind of later on in the album, the second half, right? But other than that, I think it has some interesting stuff on it. So I've always liked this one. Obviously, it's not as good as a lot of their classic stuff, but I still think it's decent. So yeah, Union. And then my last honorable mention is The Ladder from 1999. I don't actually own this one on CD. I don't know if I'm going to own this one on CD. I've got digital files of it. I've owned it previously, but I don't know that I need it now, right? Because for me, like I said earlier, Key Studio was the last good Yes album, or really good Yes album that came out. But I do there are some decent songs on The Ladder, like Nine Voices. I love Nine Voices. That one in particular, that sounds like classic Yes, right? But, and it's got a few other decent songs as well. I'm not going to go through them all right now, but actually I will note that I do like The Messenger as well. The Messenger's cool. And It Will Be a Good Day is pretty decent. Homeworld is pretty cool. So it's got a few songs that I dig for sure. You know, I don't mind the latter, but really, it's not as good as Key Studio, right? I maintain Key Studio was really the last really good Yes thing we got, right? Yes album that we got, but I still like the latter for I don't know, 3 or 4 songs on it that I think are pretty decent. So, and you know, after that, I didn't really care that much about what they were doing after that. I mean, I think I had Magnification at one point as well, but I didn't really like Magnification that much. And then, of course, once John left, I just don't care anymore about what they're doing now. But again, the Steve Howe Show, just not for me, right? If you're a fan, that's totally cool, but it's just not for me. So that's about it for my honorable mentions. All right, so that about wraps it up for my top 10 Yes albums ranking. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and what are your favorite Yes albums. I always love chatting with you guys and interacting with you guys in the comments, so make sure you leave me some feedback down below. Also, don't forget to like the video and subscribe if you're not already subscribed. Thank you so much for watching today, guys. I really appreciate it, and I'll see you soon.